Hello, Iowa. I'm Nick Learhoff. Our show, Talk Therapy, adds a clear voice to the discussion on a topic that Iowans face every day: mental illness. The show brings to the airwaves the doctors, therapists, and specialists who understand the unique challenges Iowans face. Join Scott Casper and me every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. on Iowa's Hope, 940, and online at talktherapytmhs.com. For the conversation on this important life topic. As we like to say, Iowa, we're listening.
You bet we are. Good morning, everybody. I am Scott Casper, live from the Five Talents Financial Management Group studios. Nick Learhoff and I on this program. It's St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Now, every week we have a different topic within the sphere of mental health, and joining us are the guests that can help you understand what you may be facing and where you can turn. And that's a big question a lot of times, is where can I turn when I have an issue? Who can I talk to? And who knows, you may hear something or someone that has a problem just like you. Our topic this week, we've got state and federal programs with our special guest, Senator Joni Ernst. We also will be talking about our friend, I'm turning the page here. I did a really good job of stapling these together. I'll tell you that right now. But we have Bob Thacker on. Okay, Bob Thacker is the Director of Substance Abuse of Central Iowa Psychological Services, where their watchwords, their slogan, if you will, is compassionate, whole person care where you matter. And I'm going to emphasize and underline, Nick, where you matter, because while we think we're all different, okay, really when it comes to addiction and substance abuse, the end result is pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot of times at St. Gregory's that, we don't talk much about the substance because, we know what that does.
Right.
Right. So it really comes back to the individual, getting to the root of that individual's, underlying issues, that person's struggles, if you will, whether it be their relationships, their financials, their vocation, their social aspects. And it's really getting back to that individual and being able to walk alongside them and really just finding out what's causing that struggle.
And it is a struggle. It's a struggle for family. It's a struggle for faith. It's a struggle for self. And that really kind of describes, in my mind anyway, every mental illness out there, because there's a battle being waged inside you internally that must be overcome. Every day you need to be a warrior. You need to stand up with all the tools available, and that's what so many of us are missing, is the desire to reach out for tools. That's probably there, but it's not identified yet. But the desire to reach out for them, where are they? Who do I call? How do I get there? What's the end result look like? And for most of you, while the skies may be cloudy, right now, okay, cloudy and incorrect right now, I will tell you this, that once you do receive help, all of a sudden there are rays of light that shine through. Nick, you've seen it countless times at St. Gregory.
Thousands.
And also when you're talking with guys just like Bob Thacker, for example, because of the people he sees in either extended care or maybe they're going through a DUI situation where they're mandated by the court to receive additional help, which gives you the opportunity, by the way, to understand whether or not you do or don't have a problem. If you've been stopped for alcohol or substance abuse of any kind, chances of you having a problem are pretty good, okay? So look at the court-mandated opportunity as being just that, an opportunity.
An opportunity. I mean, when you look at the different you talk about that pinhole of light, if you
Right.
will. That's kind of probably what we see more or less at St. Gregory's. Has gotten to that dire point. People like to call it as rock bottom in quotation, right? But that's not necessarily always the case. It's not just all of a sudden you wake up and boom, we're at rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that there is maybe a little bit of a struggle going on. Maybe you get your first stop or an OWI, DUI, or maybe the parents finds weed in the house or something, and so there's a little bit of an inkling that there's some substance use or abuse going on, and so sometimes that it just needs a little bit of a course correction before it gets to that rock bottom.
And rock bottom can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. It can be combinations of things. And it may be financial. It may be spiritual. It may be family. It may be relationships. Relationships generally are not the first thing to go. Generally, it's financial, right? I mean, we see people in financial distress and so deep they think there is no way out. They continue the behavior which contributed to the financial distress. And I will tell you this, let that be the least of your worries. Financial can always be corrected once you're sober or straight enough in order to be able to understand it. People that are looking for you to pay them really want you to pay them. Believe it or not, they want their money. I get it, okay? But they also understand that being human is a tremendous burden for any one person or any one group of people to carry. It truly is. It is perhaps the greatest burden we will ever have in our lives.
Yeah, and you talk about that the money and the financial pieces being issues for folks. We've had different people. It's like, oh well, I need to just get back home. I need to get back to work. That'll keep me busy. That'll keep me focused. And it's kind of that rush to get back because I got bills to pay. Well, I've talked to different folks before, and it's just like, well, yes, completely understand that, but if you don't finish programming, if you don't finish the journey of working through those underlying issues, if you can't stay sober, if you can't stay straight to be able to go to that job, be able to make that money, then there's really, what's the point?
Right. Now, I will tell you this, that, like I said, people want their money, they get it, but they also want to be part of the solution to your problem. You follow me? Yeah. Again, to be human, to err is human. Well, goodness knows we err, each of us, every day in a variety of ways, whether we recognize it or not. Some of us just let it go. But I think what we're seeing across the country right now with the political unrest, Black Lives Matter, the police shootings, and I'm talking about police that are being shot. I'm talking about police that are shooting, law enforcement, et cetera. I mean, the dregs of society and that which we see as societal unnorms. In other words, we have to look at what's going on for what it is, not what we want it to be. Okay, for what it is equality for everybody. The baggage that's out there for everybody to carry would be much lighter if we all carried it the same. But again, we're human, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I look at all the different things that are going on, and you talk about the injustice or the lack of justice. Well, at St. Gregory's, we actually, a big part of our root part of our curriculum is the idea of virtue, and getting people back to virtue-driven decision making. So it's love, it's faith, it's hope. One of those virtues is justice,
right?
And really, if you boil it back, you pull it back, it gets to the idea of treating others how we want to be treated,
right?
That golden rule, if you will. So when we look at how we treat ourselves, how we treat our neighbor, and I mean literally from you think about your social circles and the friends and relationships, your coworkers, your boss, or supervisor, that's where I guess you think of what we can do as a nation or as a community. It all starts with us, and it all starts with our closest relationships working out.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to bring this up. The greatest need of the human heart, and we've heard it said before, but we'll say it again. The great need of the human heart is to feel listened to and understood by self and others. We can take that one sentence, that one quote, and apply it to what the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to get across, okay? They want to be listened to. They want to be understood. They mostly understand themselves. Maybe they're searching for an identity, a reason why they're doing what they're doing. But the rest of us need to understand them. We need to listen to them, that affected group. And I would tell you this, that once we shut our mouths, when the hand goes up, mouth goes closed, right? So my hand is up, okay, always for myself. I want to hear what they've got to say so I can better understand it. I think sometimes that I've got the answer. I don't, because I've never walked a mile in their shoes, okay? I've never felt oppressed. I've never felt like I was being cast upon by members of law enforcement just because of the color of my skin. I just haven't felt that, and I don't know that I can. But I can surely understand by listening and helping myself to understand by listening to folks that do have that everyday occurrence. And some of us may choose to drink. Some of us may choose to drug. Substance abuse comes in many flavors. And I will tell you that if we take a minute, take a breath, and don't look at the doomsayers out there that are lighting fire to Kenosha, Wisconsin, or insert name of the city here, but instead look at the good that is being done. Stop focusing on all the negative, because that only adds fuel to the fire. Agree or disagree?
Agreed.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at any of the social media platforms, everybody has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is an expert. And, it's a shame that we can't just, like you said, put our hands up, or keep our mouths closed and just listen, just try to understand. At the end of the day, whether you're struggling with what you feel is oppression, whether you're struggling with a mental illness, whether you're struggling with an addiction or a substance abuse problem, most of those folks just want to be heard. They just want to be understood. They're struggling with something, and they just want somebody to listen and feel like they're being paid attention to.
That's correct. And that's one of the things that our representatives, believe it or not, we're going to get political here in a minute, but one of the things our representatives are challenged with is listening to their constituents, okay, and finding out what concerns each constituent, because generally one person will speak on behalf of 100 or more. These are true concerns. And if they don't feel like they're being listened to, guess what? Boom, an issue that we call mental illness. We're going to talk more about that with Senator Joni Ernst. She's coming up next on the program, live from the Five Talents Financial Management Group studios. This is Talk Therapy, the mental health show, brought to you in part by our good friends at St. Gregory Recovery Center. Stay tuned. Across the state, you're listening to Hope 940 AM.
Stay tuned. There's more with Nick Learhoff and Scott Casper right here on Iowa's 940 for St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Iowa, we're listening.
I came to St. Gregory very reluctantly at my all-time worst, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But I gave my best effort to these new things in my life as I saw hope in this complete approach. I'm at the point now that I feel my strongest and best ever, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I felt quite certain God was orchestrating everything.
St. Gregory Recovery Center. Recovery starts here. RelevantRadio.com/St. Gregory.
All right, everybody, it is Talk Therapy live from the Five Talents Financial Management Studios. I want to thank our friends at St. Gregory's for helping to make this program possible each and every week. A different topic, as you know, each and every week. Well, today and this week, we're going to be talking about state and federal programs with our first guest of the program. She is the Honorable Senator Joni Ernst. She joins us now on the Newsmaker Hotline. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I am very well. Thanks so much. It's good to be with you.
It's Scott and Nick here in the studios of Talk Therapy, and I know that mental illness, mental health is a big issue for you. And before we get there, may I please just say this. It was generous of you, indeed, to speak on behalf of the state of Iowa at the RNC. I thought you were not only spot on, but as usual, doing what you can when you can, speaking on behalf of the state and its people. You were just dedicated to task, and it was wonderful to see. I appreciate your leadership.
Oh, thank you so much. It was such an honor to do that, and I was so proud to represent the state of.
Now, everybody, we boil it down here, Senator, just to people talking to people, and I know Senator is a term that you have been elected to that office, obviously. But may we call you Joni? Do you mind?
I do not mind at all.
Excellent.
And
That's an Iowa.
As a matter of fact, yeah, most folks, when I'm out and about, they call me Joni, and that's what I'm known as. So,
well, or it could be Major, right?
I'm happy. I actually retired as a lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel, pardon me. Okay.
Yeah, no, but Joni is perfectly acceptable.
Good. I was debating on that, having met you before, same with our governor. You always respect the office, but the person, that's at the core of everything. Joni, let's get down to it. State and federal. Federal comes first when it comes to the trickle down of monies. Recently, a great deal of money was dedicated to the state of Iowa. You are a part of that. Can you tell us exactly what all we're looking at there? I mean, we're talking about a lot of money.
A lot of money, which is really important. We need to make sure that we are supporting our local mental health efforts, and it does start at the federal level and trickles down. And so we did have a considerable amount of support through the CARES Act. That was that Phase 3 bill to help in COVID recovery, and it was bipartisan, and it passed unanimously. So in that bill, I did help secure $425 million for what we call SAMHSA, which is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Wow.
And
Wonderful.
through that, our great state of Iowa received $2 million, and that will help expand programs for our Iowans who are struggling with substance abuse and mental illness. So again, those dollars coming right into the state of Iowa and supporting the wonderful programs that we have across the state.
Senator Joni Ernst, our guest, her first visit, hopefully of many over the coming months and years. Farmers First Act, I've often said that farmers are overlooked in terms of mental health. The incidence of suicide amongst farmers is high. And we see it firsthand here in the state of Iowa, largely regarded as an agricultural state. Talk to us about that, because you do see, I mean, you visited many counties. Matter of fact, I think you finished the 99-county tour, yeah?
I am close. I'm actually in the 80s right now, so I should be finishing in the next week or so. But as I'm out and about doing the 99-county tour, I do hear a lot about this, and especially after the derecho, the stress and strain that is put upon the shoulders of the men and women that are engaged in farming across the state, it is so noticeable now more than ever. And, I'm a kid of the 80s, grew up in the 70s and 80s and experienced some of the hardship coming through the farm crisis. And those farmers really are that overlooked group.
Right.
They're stoic, they're independent, and I saw that even in my own folks during rough times. Is they never let on those financial difficulties, the burdens that they experienced, and sometimes that can manifest into very difficult situations. And so Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin and I were looking at this issue, and as we were researching our Farmers First Act, which did pass into law, we found out that farmers actually have the highest incidence of suicide out of any career group, even surpassing the level that our veterans face. And so it became important for us to make sure that we're providing resources for our farmers and those involved in agriculture. We want them to know that there are resources, there are people out there that are willing to assist, and of course, we have to provide those dollars in order to do that.
So, Nick, what we're talking about is a community largely that goes unseen because they many times are out there in the fields working alone, okay? They have nobody to talk to, and that's where our prevention hotlines and self-helps and groups, that's one of the reasons why we started this program. Nick and I said, hey, we got to do something. We got to keep the conversation out there so it becomes part of the norm. It's not just, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? No, it's part of the normal conversation of America, okay, of Iowa. And Iowa is so willing, ready, and able to embrace change and to embrace all that is good, seeing past all that is being presented on national media as being bad. I mean, that is a small percentage of everything that's being done that is good, and yet they focus purely on the bad.
Yes, and that's what we really should be celebrating. Great states like Iowa, we've seen it, as I said, through the derecho, through COVID-19, where Iowans are helping Iowans and reaching out. We're always more than willing to offer a helping hand to a neighbor. And it's just part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard thing, though, is to be the neighbor that's on the receiving end. Again, because we want to do things for ourselves. We love the independence of whether it's agriculture or other positions within the agricultural industry. Sometimes it's hard to receive that help, but that's why I'm so thankful that you are making this part of a normal conversation. Everyone will go through hardships at one point or another. We have to take care of ourselves, and this is how we can do it and how we can help take care of our neighbors. And I'm just very grateful. And as you mentioned, with our Farmers First Act, we were able to establish those helplines. There's suicide prevention training for farm advocates. We have those support groups that are created. And, of course, we reestablished the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. And so we just need folks to know there are resources out there ready and willing and able to help.
Joni, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked a little bit about how, the farmers in that group, they're so independent. They're so self-sustaining in a certain sense. It's like, I know, my dad was one of 4 brothers. He was the only one that didn't farm. He helped out when he was younger, but and then I have a lot of family friends that are farmers. And you talk about a group that, they just like doing things themselves. They just like
independent,
and very independent. They're fixing tractors. They're going out, all hours of the night, out in the fields. And it's like, getting to that place where they understand that those resources are out there, but more importantly, that it's okay to get help.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help. And I think that you talk about decades of just being, that independent person that is able just to go out and get the job done. I think that probably stems a little bit into some of those numbers.
Well, we see oppression, right? And then we see it's oppression brought on by oneself to remain independent, and then there's shame. And we have to get past shame. Once we get past shame and make that part of the discussion, and then I think we're on our way to things like the Farmers First Act, which you were a huge part of it. That was your bill in 2018, but it has long-reaching effects, not just in funding, because that is a ball that continues to roll in a positive way. And and I'm so grateful that you have not only stated what you were going to do, but gone on to Washington and lived up to your promises. And that may be the watchword of this whole convention that just took place. I watched as much as I could of both conventions, but what I heard from your organization, your group, your party is that you're putting America first. You're putting positive messages out there, and then backing it up with those promises that you made. You're keeping them.
Right, exactly. And this is what has driven me my entire life. It is a life of service over self. And I truly believe that, whether it was volunteering at a very young age throughout my community, right there in Montgomery County where I still live today, or whether it was going on to serve in the military or now serving in the United States Senate. Certainly it's always Iowa first. And what are those goals that we can achieve for Iowa? And then having those hard conversations, even with people I don't agree with, to find a solution and move forward. So, working together, we get things done. And, Georgetown University did rank me as one of the most bipartisan senators out of the last 25 years from any state. And that to me says a lot. I'm willing to reach out. If we have shared interests, we should be trying to achieve those shared interests. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everybody, but certainly on an issue like mental health, I know that I'm going to find partners out there that will be willing to work with me on these issues. And that's why Tammy Baldwin was such a natural choice. She is very passionate, first about farmers, and she's also passionate about mental health. And those two issues, and coming together with her on those two issues, we were able to get the Farmers First Act signed into law.
I'm going to, Joni, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Danny Bishop, our producer, if we can we keep her through?
Absolutely.
Do you mind?
You bet.
Senator Ernst, do you mind if we keep you through a 1 or 2 minute break here? Because I
No,
do
go
want
ahead.
you to talk about the Veterans Act. It's so very important to me. My father, 88 years old, a Korean War veteran, United States Army, and Army. What was it? Army Intelligence Service. It was the very first edition of that. But very interested to hear your comments on the VA Mission Act and the Vets Act as well. Tell you what, we'll take a quick time out. You're listening to Talk Therapy, the St. Gregory's Talk Therapy Mental Health Show, live on 940 AM. This is Hope, Iowa. You've got hope. We've got it too. Stay tuned.
Talk Therapy, the mental health show, is brought to you by St. Gregory's Recovery Center. St. Gregory's features individualized drug treatment programs with a personal and holistic approach. Enjoy private counseling in small groups attended by caring staff in beautiful and serene locales. St. Gregory's is evidence-based rehabilitation. Most insurance is accepted. Don't go it alone. Enjoy a high success rate with St. Gregory's Recovery Centers. St. Greg's, it's where science meets recovery. stgregory.com.
All right, welcome back to St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Look for us online at talktherapytmhs.com, talktherapytmhs.com. I'll get it all out there. Big shout out publicly to Ben Watson, who works for you, Senator Ernst. Again, just a tremendous young man, and what a job he's got. Helping to organize your schedule and making sure that you're available for shows just like this, reaching out to Iowans. Those are the people you want to talk to because those are the people that you represent. In doing so, in representing Iowans, you were instrumental in another bipartisan bill called the Vets Act. Can you talk about that?
Yes, and thank you so much. You know, as a combat veteran and someone who served in uniform for over 23 years, I just recognize how important this issue is. And the Vets Act, again, another bipartisan bill, it was signed into law as part of the VA Mission Act. And what it does, it seeks to improve healthcare access, which would include mental health treatment. And that would be also for disabled or rural veterans. And it expands the telehealth services provided by the Department of Veterans Affairs. We know that so many of our folks here in Iowa do live in rural areas.
Right.
They may not have a psychiatrist or a counselor somewhere close. So this allows accessing those types of programs at the VA by telehealth. So big step forward, and I've had a lot of positive comments about those are coming from those veterans, even our older veterans that are able to utilize those services.
I caught myself the other day, Senator, in making a post on Facebook, and I am somewhat active, not totally intelligent when it comes to social media, Twitter and Facebook. Facebook, I'm probably the most active on, right? But I said it's official. New York City is dead, and it was prophetic in his writing that Billy Joel said he saw the lights go out on Broadway. He saw the Empire State laid low, and that just it depressed me so much. One of my favorite places to visit, one of my great cities to work in at Madison Square Garden. I love working there, but realistically, you can cross Broadway at midday without using the light to your advantage. You can cross against the light and not worry about getting hit. That is depressing in many ways, because there are many businesses that are being hurt. There are many people. There are 13,000 empty apartments in Manhattan. 13,000. That's an incredible number. But let's bring that back to Iowa. We're seeing businesses being affected by COVID, and we're seeing businesses being asked to shutter again until mid-September or 20th or so. I'm talking about restaurants, nightclubs, etc. But is that a small price to pay, or are we putting as much importance on that as we need to? What are your thoughts?
Well, and I am so thankful for Governor Kim Reynolds' leadership through COVID-19. I truly am. She is such a compassionate leader, and she understands businesses as well. So there is a very delicate balance between doing the right thing to safeguard our communities, but also protecting those businesses and making sure that they are viable. And so that's where the governor and I really work quite well together, is making sure that at the federal level, we understand what those businesses and what those individuals are going through, hopefully providing those supports as necessary, like we did in the CARES Act, so that we can keep those businesses liquid even if they have to shut down. I know it's a hurtful impact, but again, the governor has some very difficult choices in making sure that we safeguard our population. And this has been hard, as we focus on mental illness, the isolation of our elderly, making sure that we are keeping them in good spirits as well. And then also our school children, balancing the fact that they do need to be educated, they do need to have social interaction, and how do we move forward, through the school year as well. So there's a lot going on right now, and the stress and the strain is taking an impact, and that's why, programs and talking about this is so important, and understanding we're all going to have challenges. We just need to recognize it, and it's okay to talk about it.
And that's what we do here on Talk Therapy. You see what I did there? Okay. These are the jokes. All right. You know what? If we lose sight of having a little bit of fun around the edges, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. I think that's my release. I truly do. Senator, I must comment too on Vice President Pence. And I've heard it said before, but now even more so with you on the Newsmaker line. There is assistance now, medical care available for all veterans. Talk about that, because that is a huge step. It wasn't always that way.
Right, and we do need to make sure that our veterans are being cared for. There have been a lot of service members that have given so much, and to make sure that we are honoring our commitment to them is very important. And I'm so thankful that we have Vice President Pence where we do. He's a great man of faith. He is a great man of service, and he brings those talents, skills, and abilities into his position, and he uses it for the betterment of our country. And I'm just so thankful for that. So the fact that he's shedding light on our veterans, the fact that their service needs to be honored, I'm really grateful.
Senator, we know you're up against the clock, as are we. We hope you accept the invitation to come back on a regular basis. We appreciate your input, letting us know firsthand what is going on, what you're involved with, and the acts, bills, et cetera, that you're pushing forward and working on in part with the White House and this president. It's a tremendous opportunity for Iowa, and I think we've got the right person in place to continue that effort, and that is you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me on the show, and hope to visit again very soon.
Tell Ben we said hi.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
God bless. There we go. Senator Joni Ernst.
You.
And it's strong leaders like Senator Ernst that can stand up to the elites, the coastal elites is what I call them, who don't care anything about the Midwest. Well, Danny, we've got to bring our next guest in. You want to do that now? Let's bring our next guest in, because I think if we can continue this conversation, we talked about the bipartisan bill that she and the president signed that helps to identify the most effective programs and approaches in reducing suicide rates among female veterans. Well, that other bipartisan bill of hers, the VETS Act, was signed into law as part of the VA Mission Act and seeks to improve healthcare access. We talked about that. Where once it wasn't available to everybody, now it is in many different forms, including telehealth. That's becoming that much more important during this time of the pandemic that we're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just the availability of those services, and Joni kind of talked about it, kind of alluded to it earlier. It's, Iowa's very rural. It's a lot of distance between some of those services, and even just having high quality services available to those who are in those rural areas. And so when you look at that, and then you add in the coronavirus and people who maybe have underlying conditions or health conditions that maybe need to keep themselves maybe a little bit separated, but still need to get involved with those services to help out with mental health or to keep themselves engaged. The availability of the telehealth services to those folks is just outstanding.
I'm so grateful for strong leadership because if you recall, there are times in our past where we didn't stand up for ourselves and we were overlooked because we didn't speak up. No longer is that a problem. We have very strong people in D.C., very strong people at the State House. Marty Anderson, for example, who was on our very first show. I respect her. I don't care what party you're a part of. I really don't. If you're acting and moving on behalf of Iowans, that's all I care about. Because generally speaking, as Iowa goes, so goes the country. A man who I'm sure espouses to that is the Director of Substance Abuse. He is Bob Thacker from Central Iowa Psychological Services. He joins us now. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm good, Scott. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bob.
Nick is in the studio as well. And Nick,
Hi,
this Central Iowa Psychological Services, that's a lot of good words, but realistically what underlies the whole thing is, and I said it earlier in the show, compassionate, whole person care where you matter, where the individual matters, and that translates into family, where families matter. And Bob, that's a big job for you and the team there at Central Iowa Psychological Services, yeah?
Well, Scott, it is, but we have some very, very good clinicians that take great care in providing the services that we provide at Central Iowa Psychological Services.
Okay. And I want to throw it over to Nick, too, because, Nick, this is huge. You talk to Bob on a fairly regular basis, and being in the business of substance abuse and the treatment of where St. Gregory's has its strengths, there are folks that can generally use Central Iowa Psychological Services for a variety of means and ways, but they offer so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we actually, part of our clients' discharge plan is we try to hook them up or line them up with outpatient services so that way they have that continued support from a mental health and or substance abuse treatment standpoint, as well as just connecting them with very, very good cleanicians. And Central Iowa Psychological Services does that. So
we're talking with Bob Thacker in studio, of course, always Nick Learhoff, Scott Casper with you. Let's talk about some of the services that are available through Central Iowa Psychological Services. Bob?
Well, we have a full array, Scott, of behavioral health services at our three locations, and we're in Ames, and we're in Ankeny, and also in West Des Moines. We provide both co-occurring mental health services and the full state licensed substance abuse treatment program. And we enjoy our connection with Nick and St. Gregory's. We partner quite a bit with each other and provide services very similarly. So it's a nice connection.
I want to stop for just a minute. There's a lot of fostering going on, physical, mental, but what I found missing in my life was the spiritual. I could go to church, but church doesn't always offer everything I need. In other words, I needed somebody to help me boil it all down and to realize really what my life was all about, what it was missing, and what it could look like on the other side. And I think that's what you offer. Perhaps the greatest thing you offer is hope through spirituality. And that's that compassion that describes Central Iowa Psychological Services, or am I missing the point?
No, absolutely. We meet everybody, that walks into our doors, where they're at, where they, when they come in, and we address any and all of the needs that they have when they come into our locations, including spirituality. And that is, a huge part of many people's lives. And so we also address traumas and things that people have experienced in their lives and try to help them work through those. and recover and get a perspective on things that have happened in their lives.
And perspective is huge, right, Nick? I mean, so many times they come to the doors with or without family members, come to the doors to St. Gregory's, and they are really flailing in life. They have nothing left to lose. They have everything to gain. They just don't know it.
When we see folks at St. Gregory's, a lot of times they're at their more dire ends, I guess you could say, with the substance abuse and the treatment, or they're struggling with their substance abuse. And so when you look at what that focus is, it's hard to focus on the positive. It's hard to focus on what their life could look like. It's
right.
that pinhole, of light, if you will. And so a lot of times when I'm out about in the house, I just talk about, it's like, hey, how you doing today? I'm doing wonderful. Every day is a blessing. If you think you're having a bad day, try missing one. And it's really about that perspective. It's about outlook. And so part of what we do, and I know Central SIPS, or Central Iowa Psychological Services too, is providing that perspective, that outlook, and moving into a positive direction.
We're talking with Bob Thacker, Director of Substance Abuse at Central Iowa Psychological Services. I say I call it SIPS. CIPS, SIPS. Is that right, Bob, or am I missing the point there?
That is the anagram that we use. Yeah.
Okay, good.
SIPS, yeah.
I find it, sips, you take a sip of a drink or whatever. I just think that's kind of cute. All right.
I was going to say, isn't that kind of interesting how that comes together?
Right.
It's ironic. All right, about a minute out for the break, Bob, we're going to ask you to stay through the break so we can continue our conversation. But Ames, Ankeny, West Des Moines, that's where we're seeing offices, but and each office has a variety of different creative services that are there and available that can help develop solutions, and not just any solution. I'm talking about compassionate solutions. Many times these are real life problems that must be addressed in order to get to the root problem. What is causing you to drink? Okay, what is the root cause, and then how do we get past that and let that be a part of the past? Learn from it, but move ahead, for there are brighter days ahead. Our producer, Danny Bishop, is saying, hey, we're over on time. So, Danny, do you mind? Let's just go to break. We'll come back with more with Bob Thacker, Director of Substance Abuse, and our friends at Central Iowa Psychological Services. You're listening to St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Look for us online at talktherapy.tmhs.com. We'll be back after this. More on Hope 940.
Stay tuned. There's more with Nick Learhoff and Scott Casper right here on Iowa's 940 for St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Iowa, we're listening.
I came to St. Gregory very reluctantly at my all-time worst, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But I gave my best effort to these new things in my life as I saw hope in this complete approach. I'm at the point now that I feel my strongest and best ever, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I felt quite certain God was orchestrating everything.
St. Gregory Recovery Center. Recovery starts here. RelevantRadio.com/St. Gregory.
All right, welcome back, Iowa, to St. Gregory's Mental Health Show. It's Talk Therapy Show, by the way. Our guest is Bob Thacker of Central Iowa Psychological Services. And, Bob, we're talking about services that are available, you, I, and Nick here in this conversation. You cover a lot of ground, and with that come people that partner with you within the organizational structure in every location that have different specialties. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we have pretty much all outpatient behavioral health services that you can provide. We do mental health services, specifically individual therapy. We have clinicians that do DBT. And we have marriage and family therapists. We have psychologists that do psych testing. We really, on the mental health side, we try to cover everything that we can possibly cover for mental health. We are a licensed substance abuse treatment provider in the state of Iowa and also accredited by CARF nationally. And we've been doing that since 2013. I'm really excited that we brought in a new service that we started in July which is transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is a chair that we have in West Des Moines, and we're going to be putting them also in other locations in Ames and Ankeny, which is new cutting-edge treatment for depression. And that is overseen by our nurse practitioner, Judy Gonzalez, at our location in West Des Moines. And so excited to offer that service to the central Iowa area.
Something new, cutting-edge technology and compassionate care. That's the way to do it, right? I mean, if you're going to be not just, let's face it, you got to be competitive in the market. But when it comes to dealing with providing services to patients of all walks of life and all problems, you've got to be prepared to grow with what is available. And I think that's been my experience with you folks, and that is you care and you want to offer up the very best services. The challenges are out there, Nick, right now in the pandemic. You're not able to conduct small groups in person as easily, if at all. You're choosing to use the technology that's out there in many cases, and I'm talking about things like Zoom, right, or other services, Yahoo Groups or what have you. But I think it's interesting to see how you guys have grown with the pandemic. You see it as a differing type of opportunity. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have been able to very quickly shift our focus of providing services into a telehealth format. We do use an encrypted form of Zoom. There's a secure Zoom site to provide service. So pretty much, every clinician that we have does provide telehealth, including nurse for medication checks and things like that. Our substance abuse groups are being done, interestingly enough, very effectively using that format, and I've been very, very pleased with how that's gone for us.
Do you think people are more likely to open up when it's only a screen, a camera and a screen? Do you think they're more likely to open up, less afraid of sharing in a group setting when it is only a camera and screen as opposed to being in person?
Well, interestingly enough, several clients that are, in our groups have said that exactly, that, it seems less daunting to me to be able to, talk to people, and not be in the same room with them and, feel safe to do that. And so several of our clients have mentioned that has been easier for them.
I would think it is, Nick. I mean, that to me would be huge.
Oh, yeah. No, excuse me. No, I mean, when you get into those group settings, and I know just from being in different groups and things at St. Gregory's with the inpatient, that can be a challenge for folks, to feel comfortable and opening up on things. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer where they'd have to kind of get to know the people in their group a little bit, but we always are encouraging and trying to help people really kind of share and talk. At the end of the day, they're all kind of helping each other with different perspectives and things that they've experienced and maybe relate in certain ways to the other folks that are in the group. And so, I absolutely could see that huge benefit in telehealth from not only from a standpoint of just being able to access those folks who maybe weren't able to get to services before, but also from the standpoint of that comfortability.
And I want to ask Bob too, exploration of oneself, I would imagine is huge. And I think that starts every morning you wake up and every second before you go to sleep at night, exploring oneself. But not everybody has the tools or the knowledge with which to do it and do it effectively. That's perhaps one of the things, at least as I see it, that Central Iowa offers. Yes, SIPS offers that?
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial in anyone's recovery is to be able to gain personal insight and awareness into themselves. And, I think for all of us, you go through life and, you take care of the things and the responsibilities that we have with, jobs and children and things that stress us and draw on us all the time. And we lose focus on us. We lose focus on who we are and what we need. And so we do a lot of work with people to try to help them, gain that understanding and awareness of themselves. It prevents a lot of, future issues for people, and, they start to make the connections that a lot of the things that they've been through trigger their mental health issues and trigger their need to use a substance. So it's very important.
That's a common word in substance abuse, isn't it, Nick? Trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just kind of to tag team a little bit on what Bob was saying. I mean, that personal awareness and just that personal insight of digging deep within themselves, but also just that connection. A lot of times, substance use, and probably even you could say with mental health illness, is that disconnect between their thoughts and what they say their beliefs or values are and their behaviors. So a lot of times there's that lack of awareness where, sometimes we're hearing, well, this is what I want and this is what's important to me, but those behaviors don't match. They don't fit. They don't jive.
Right.
And so being able to help build those discrepancies and helping point out the fact that, hey, you're saying one thing, but you're kind of doing another. Let's explore that.
Let's do it together. Bob Thacker, we're going to extend to you this invitation, sir, and that is to become a regular guest on this program. I think you have so much more to say, so much more to offer our listeners. Will you accept that invitation?
Oh, absolutely. I actually look forward to doing that with you, Scott, and really appreciate, again, our connection with St. Gregory's. Again, we provide services that just complement each other, and I really enjoy working with Nick as well. So
look for more information online at iowacounseling.com. You've been listening to St. Gregory's Talk Therapy, the mental health show. Look for us online at talktherapytmhs.com. For Nick Learhoff, I'm Scott Casper. In Iowa, we indeed are listening.